Hello Dolldorks, this is Kianara and I'm here today with a brand new episode of How to Face Up. The question that I get asked the most about face ups is what paints do I use? So today I am going to answer that question for all of you. But first, before I get into the nitty-gritty of what paints I actually use, I want to do a little bit of the basics. And the basic thing that you have to keep in mind is that when you choose your paint, you use acrylic water-based paint. You don't want to use paint that has oil in it, because oil will seep through your sealant and will seep into your resin and leave permanent stains and marks. Now, and you don't want that to happen, so keep in mind, whatever paint you decide to choose in the end, it has to be acrylic water-based paint. So, now that we have that out of the way, let's get into what paints I use and what paints are actually available. Now I'm going to start off with what paints are available, show you a little bit of what I have in my collection. First of all, when I started doing face-ups, I started using these. These are just your average, really cheap little tubes that you can get almost in every store. Like they are packed with 5 or 12 kind of different colors, and these are fine if you just want to start off doing your face-ups, and they will work perfectly for a little budget for people who don't have a lot of money. Yeah, these can work just perfectly. You can blend them and mix them very well to the color that you want. I have a red and a white and a red one here with me. But I find that these paints, in the end, are not as pigmented as the paints that I use myself. Now, if you want a little bit more for your money, but don't want to spend a lot of money, you can also use paints like these. These are from Bleiswijk, and I got these at my local Action just around the corner. These aren't that expensive, and there's a whole lot of paint in them. As you can see, they're really big. And these work perfectly for face-ups. They are safe, they are water-based acrylics, and I know there are a lot of other brands out there that have these tubes for not that much, like, for example, Amsterdam has tubes like this as well. And they are fine, they are perfectly fine. But just as like the same with the little tubes, I found that these paints are not as pigmented as the paints that I prefer to use. So now you're probably wondering, what paint do you use? Well, this, Folk Art. That's the paint that I use for my face-ups. As you can see, I've been using them for a really long time. They are a little worn down. But Folk Art is my go-to brand. They come in smaller packages compared to those of Bleiswijk or Amsterdam. But these paints are really, really pigmented. So you will only have to use, like, for example, 1 layer to get the intensity of the color that you want compared to 3 or 4 layers of Bleiswijk. So yeah, as you can see, I have multiple colors. I have dark brown, I have black and white and peach and pink and all sorts of colors that I personally use. Now, for example, these are the smaller tubes. These tubes, they run about, between $6 and $8 a piece, or 5 to 7 euros a piece. But you also have big ones, like this one. This is a bigger one. And these are a little bit more expensive, of course. I think I paid like 10 euros for this one. But I could be mistaken, because I got it, a friend actually got it for me at a book fair, which is really weird because you find paint at book fairs. But yeah, that's where they found it for me, and they brought me home one, and I paid 10 euros for it. So it could be that it is more expensive in regular stores, but they do have big tubes as well. Just keep in mind that they are a bit more expensive than the tiny ones. And I can say, like, I have had this little tube of black. I have had this for about 6 or 7 years. And I'm still only like halfway down the tube. I have like half the tube still sitting in there, but so a little tube of this paint, because it is that pigmented, goes a very, very, very long way compared to maybe the bigger one of Bleiswijk, because you need more paint to get the intensity of colors that you want. Now, these paints of Folk Art, they are a little thick of consistency. They are very, very muddy. I think that's the best word to call it. So when I use these paints, I just take a little bit of the paint and I dilute it. Because when it is in its consistency that it is, when it comes in the tube, it's just too thick to use on face-ups. So I always dilute my paint. Now, you have two ways of diluting your paint. One is water, just simple, a little pot of water like this. It's my paint bottle. You can see that I've been painting recently. It's, a little dirty, but that's just where I put in my water, and you can dilute it to the consistency that you prefer to use, because that is, the consistency of your paint is something of a personal preference. I think you just have to try and mix and blend with water or flow medium to get the consistency that you think works for you. Now, I like my paints running, so I water them down quite a bit. But just go and have some fun, take a practice head and just see what kind of consistency works for you. That's actually the best advice that I can give. Besides using water, you can also dilute your paints with flow medium. This is from Jo Sonja. And these actually help with keeping the pigment together. When you use water, you also water down your pigments. Now, with folk art, that is not a problem, because it is really pigmented and it will not, it's not likely to use its thickness of consistency in this pigment. But for example, when using Bleiswijk or these little tubies, they do water down quite a bit, and that with that also the pigment waters down a lot. Flow medium is something that can help prevent it watering down too much. So it does help. I use flow medium, just not that regularly, because I prefer to use water, but I do have it when I, for example, can't use any one of these paints and I have to make some really weird color for a face up, so I can just blend them with these kind of tubes and prevent them from watering down too much with the flow medium. So that's why I have that. And now there are also two other tubes right here. These two. These are varnishes. I consider them part of my paint tubes, because you have to paint it on with a brush, You're gonna catch my flow with this. And these are actually the varnishes I use. And as you can see, I have two different varnishes. With varnishes, I found that it doesn't really matter what kind of brand you use, because they all get the job done very well. As you can see, I have a matte acrylic varnish. This is the exact same thing, by the way, as with paint. Always use acrylic varnish. Water-based acrylic varnish. Water-based acrylic. That's the key word here. So I have Bleiswijk acrylic matte varnish. This is what I use mostly for the face-ups I do on male heads, because not everybody likes glossy lips on dudes. Neither do I, but that's why I use the matte version. And for a gloss version, I also have a Jo Sonja gloss acrylic water-based. This one I have had for many years. As you can see, it is a little bit more expensive. This is the old price. Compared to this was like only 19 cents or something. So this is a little bit more expensive, but acrylic gloss goes a very, very long way, because you only need a little bit to get the glossy effect. Now, I also have another piece of acrylic that I don't have had for that long, but this is actually the folk art varnish. This is a big tube, as you can see. I actually got it at the same time when I got the big folk art bottle. And this is one that I have only used once, because I really want to use up this one before I start using another one. But this is also a high gloss varnish. And it, from the one time that I have used it, it is really, really smooth and nice and glossy varnish. So if you don't want to use Jo Sonja's for whatever reason, folk art gloss is good too. It's very good, to be exact. So that concludes my little episode of what paints do I use in face-ups. I hope I have been able to answer your questions, and it is like I said with finding your preferences. It is the same with paint. Not everybody likes folk art. Not everybody likes Bleiswijk. Not everybody loves Amsterdam. You know what I mean? You just have to go and find what paint works for you. Because everybody is different. Everybody has different preferences. Mine just happens to be folk art. But perhaps you are just fine with using these. I mean, that's totally fine too. You don't have to use the expensive stuff all the time. You can do with cheap stuff if that works for you. That is totally fine. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed watching this video. If you liked the video, then please give it a thumbs up. That would be great. If you like what I'm doing and want to see more of my how to face up episodes, then please subscribe to my channel. You'll be freaking awesome. And yeah, I hope to see you in my next video. Bye!